Hi, I'm Tyehimba Jess, and it's an honor to be here with these two fantastic poets and who've been on my bookshelves for so long. And it's an honor to be in front of y'all down here in Georgia. I'm going to read some poems today from my latest book entitled Olio. Olio. Olio means a mixture of ingredients that come together to form a meal. In the context of American theater, it is the middle part of the minstrel show. And the minstrel show was started early 19th century, existed more or less into the 20th century, particularly the early 20th century. And in the book Olio, you find a mix of performers that are seeking to create their art between the years more or less just before the Civil War and up until World War I. So you have folks like Blind Tom, who was blind and autistic and played piano. You have Blind Boone, who was blind and played piano. You have Scott Joplin. You have Burt Williams and George Walker, who were out of the minstrel show. You have Cissy Retta Jones, opera singer. You have Edmonia Lewis, Wildfire, who was a sculptor. Have all kinds of folks, Fisk Jubilee singers. And I'd like to introduce you, in the time I have today, to two of the folks that are in the book. Is that cool? All right. We have a screen here, great. So I'd like to introduce you to the McCoy Twins. That is Christine and Millie McCoy. They were born on a plantation in slavery in 1849. And they're twins, yes, they're not just standing back to back in this picture. They are pygopicus twins, meaning they are physically joined essentially from the bottom of the rib cage all the way through the pelvis, and then separating into two separate sets of legs, and of course with independent torsos, more or less. But pygopicus twins, very, very, very rare condition, born into slavery. So when I found out about the McCoy twins, I was thinking, well, what does this story look like? Several questions arise. Well, one, if you're a slave owner, what do you do with pygopicus twins born on your property? And from Millie and Christine's standpoint, how do I live my life? How do they live their lives through slavery and beyond? And what are the choices they make? How do they endure? So I wanted to make a set of poems that would address that. And what I'm going to do is introduce some of those poems to you today. Here we go. This is the first such poem. Can y'all read this in the back? I can try and make it a little bigger. Let me see here. That's a little bit bigger. Can y'all, ooh, that's off the screen. There you go. Can y'all read this in the back? I hope so, great. So this is known as I made this kind of invention. I call it a syncopated sonnet. It's a contrapuntal poem. It's two sonnets joined together with separate tops, a conjoined middle, and then separate bases, right? Kind of a concrete manifestation of the McCoy twins. And in this poem, that follows the structures of a Shakespearean sonnet, you can read their voices together and separate. So if we read down the middle, and if we were to imagine the McCoy twins in front of us right now, they would say together, if you follow the cursor here, we're fused in blood and body from one thrum stem, budding twin blooms of song. We're a double rose grown from hard labor that made our mothers shout, spent with awe. We hymn to pay soft homage, born of and beyond the flesh. We are just two women singing truths we can't forget. And if you look just at Millie's lines in the poem, She would say separately, we've mended two songs into one dark skin, bleeding soprano into contralto, descended from raw carnage of the South, bursting open our freedom. We sing past rage to the work song's aria. It leaves us soaked in history like our father's sweat from plantation to grave. Lord, here we are, free twin sisters who've hauled our voices far. If we look at Christine's side of this equation, we ride the wake of each other's rhythm, beating our hearts syncopated tempo with a music all our own, with our mouths seeped in the glow of hand-me-down courage, drenched in spiritual acapellas, flowing soul from bone through skin. We pay debts from broken chattel to circus stars. We sing straight from this nation's barbed-wired heart. Of course, they would want to also talk to you in unison, and they would sound like this. We've mended two songs in one dark skin. We ride the wake of each other's rhythm, bleeding soprano into contralto, beating our hearts syncopated tempo. We're fused in blood and body from one thrum stem, budding twin blooms of song. We're a double rose descended from raw carnage of the South with a music all our own, with our mouths bursting open our freedom. We sing past rage, seeped in the glow of hand-me-down courage, grown from hard labor that made our mother shout, spent with awe. We hymn to pay soft homage to the work song's aria. It leaves us drenched in spiritual acapellas, soaked in history like our father's sweat, flowing soul from bone through skin. We pay debts born of and beyond the flesh. We are just two women singing truths we can't forget from plantation to grave. Lord, here we are, from broken chattel to circus stars, free twin sisters who've hauled our voices far. We sing straight from this nation's barbed-wired heart. Thanks. And for you sonnet fans in the house, and for y'all who don't know about that sonnet life, you know, there's a structure. Shakespearean sonnet is A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. And in this case, you have, skin, contralto, stem, rose, and then south, rage, shout, homage, and us, sweat, just, forget, and R, far, right? A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. And then now on the other side, you have rhythm, tempo, stem, rose, and then mouths, courage, shout, homage, acapellas. That's just a little soft, kind of running. Forget, and then stars and heart. So it's two Shakespearean sonnets together. That's the initial sonnet, and I wanted to further explore what happened in their lives. So it turns out, if you are the kind of guy who wants to own slaves, and you have some Pygopagus twins born on your plantation, then your solution to get profit from this property might be to lend them out to a freak show at a very early age, at around 10, 11 months. Have them lent out to this freak show, leased. This guy takes them from county to county, town to town, village to village, and shows them off in the freak show. And then, when they get in the freak show, of course, there are very inquisitive physicians all across the country who are intrigued both by this scientific curiosity and also charged with the duty of verifying the product and that they are indeed Pygopagus twins. And so the twins are inspected in the rudest possible fashion over and over and over and over and over again. This happened until the end of the Civil War, when they got their freedom, at which time they got affidavits which testified to the fact that they were indeed true Pygopagus twins. So this poem is about that experience. This is entitled Billy Christine on Display. If we read down the middle, in their conjoined voice, we count the blessings of our doubled shell as we pay our dues. We've proven ourselves for science. We've been taken town to town like prize bovine. We've been pawed up and down. Each sawbone has searched us from spine to loin. Our wondrous oneness exists. We are conjoined. We're not frauds, but born of Providence. God bended two souls into one dark skin. And at this point, I'd like to introduce some flexibility that these syncopated sonnets, this contrapuntal form, this stickamithia, provides the reader, a different kind of agency to approach the poem from various angles, such as, God bended two souls into one dark skin. We're not frauds, but born of Providence, and we've list of doctors who understand. We've been probed, prodded, and roughly examined from my twin's navel to between her thighs. Been photographed, half nude, verified to those who doubt our form. We have performed with each breath. We prove we've endured faith's storm. We count the blessings of our double shell every time we rise to face the crowd's face on display. We've been richly, rudely paid to prove veracity. They've scanned each side and then back up, staring into my eyes from backbone to backbone, from hip to hip. Our miracle is real. Hear and see this. We're not frauds, but born of Providence. God mended two souls into one dark skin. We're not frauds, but born of Providence. Our wondrous oneness exists. We're conjoined. Each sawbone has searched us from spine to loin like prize bovine. We've been pawed up and down for science. We've been taken town to town as we pay our dues. We've proven ourselves. We count the blessings of our doubled shell. Thank you. So these syncopated sonnets give a lot of elasticity to the way you can approach them. I don't memorize the way I'm going to go through the lines. It's just I just kind of do it ad hoc. So, going on with the rest of their, they kind of gave away a little story there, because they were kidnapped. There's actually 3 kidnappings in the group in the book, if you count one that is not a corporeal kidnapping. But McCoy Twins were kidnapped. Why? Because the guy that was leasing them out said, you know what, I want all this money for myself. Why I gotta share it with this guy who just sits in his on his plantation and chills? No, I'm gonna take the twins, put them on a boat, take them to England, and just collect all the money for myself. And that posed a quandary for the slave owner. He said, well, how am I gonna get my money back? Good question. Well, this is around 1851 or so. He says, I'm gonna take their mother, put them on a boat, take her on a boat, go over to England, track them down, and then when I finally find the twins, because they're being advertised all over London, when I find the twins, bring the mother to them, and of course, they're little kids, they haven't seen their mother in months. First thing they're gonna say is, Mommy. That is part of my proof of ownership, and boom, there I go. I produce my papers, etc. On the other hand, there's another quandary, and that is on behalf of the mother. She's in England. It's in the 1850s. At that point, slavery in England had been abolished. So would she choose to sue for her freedom in Britain, or would she choose to come back to the United States, where she had a husband and about 5 other kids? And this poem is about that. Millie and Christine are kidnapped. So if we start from the bottom, we can see the answer to this quandary. Straight into Dixie's rebellious mouth, our mother left England and went back south. Choosing between homeland and untold harms, we returned to a master we could trust. We sailed back to our Carolina home. We'd earned a London court sympathy, and thus, though we'd missed family, were we not blessed? The thief's greed had set us free. Although bonded from slavery, we'd slipped into liberty. We'd been stolen from mother and master, absconded like contraband. We'd been shipped to Britain at the age of 3. We'd been kidnapped afar like double dark treasures. Entertainment straight from America's barbed wire heart. We'd been rented and sold, then snatched. Taken at the age of 3, we'd been kidnapped afar, imported by a scallywag agent. We'd been stolen from mother and master. Absconded, we'd been smuggled to freedom's soil, and yes, the thief's greed had set us free. Although bonded because of our great popularity, we'd learned London court sympathy, and thus we went back to bondage in mother's arms. We returned to a master we could trust. Torn between family or freedom's unknowns, our mother left England and went back south, straight into Dixie's rebellious mouth. Okay. So one can also read diagonally through the poem, right? Forwards and backwards. Now, they went back to the United States and suffered through bondage. Civil War came, they got their emancipation. Question was, well, what were they going to do with their lives? What they decided to do was to continue in the same vein under their own volition as employees of a freak show. They became very famous in this with their notoriety. They were not just, I just want to say that they did not just stand in front of the crowd and get gawked at. They played multiple instruments, spoke multiple languages, sang duets, of course, danced, wrote their own poetry. They were quite a hit. They were smash. They traveled around the country, around the world, met kings and queens, and as they traveled, along with that notoriety came a little bit of cash. Not just a little bit, but enough to send home piece by piece, dollar by dollar, ducat by ducat, franc by franc, pound by pound, so that their parents were able to take all that money and buy the plantation upon which they had been slaves. A true story. And some of the folks from that family are still living there today in North Carolina. This is that poem right there. Y'all read this in the back? Let me make it a little bigger. Millie Christine Byland. We're free twin sisters who've hauled our voices far. Wir singen in drei Sprachen und machen es schwarz. That means roughly in German. We sing in 3 languages and make them black. Okay. We speak more than one tongue. Wherever we roam, this gift's pure gold. While we travel the road with dimes hoarded by pinching francs and pounds against servitude. We sing freedom bound, and we know the cost. We've overcome with duets all mingled up to heaven. We've brought land that once enslaved our parents with duets all mingled up to heaven from the root of our guts. We give back against servitude. We sing freedom bound from each gawking crowd. Meanwhile, dollars stack with dimes hoarded by pinching francs and pounds. The Lord provides for us. We make greenbacks. This gift's pure gold. While we travel the road, we've made our wealth. For gratification, we speak more than one tongue. Wherever we roam, nous avons chanté la français à Paris. We're singing drei Sprachen und machen es schwarz. We're certified global phenomena. We're free twin sisters who've hauled our voices far. Okay. Now, I'm going to share one penultimate poem, and then I'm going to be on my way. This is just their love story. They did not bemoan the way they came on the planet. They relished it. They embraced it. And they died in their 60s. They lived quite a long time into the first decade of the 20th century. First one died, then the other one died about 17 hours later. Okay? But they lived a very full life. Here, this is our story. I want you to hear one body crooning 2 notes. By God, we're airborne, shook and shimmering through my head in a way very few could comprehend. With every breath we've got, I'm filled completely. I love my song and dance and family. I love this burden that we've been given to ride the shared wake of one blood's rhythm. I love this burden that we've been given the way you love your own blood, twice as much. I love my song and dancing family. I live each day like I won't see its night. With every breath we've got, I'm filled completely with souls ablaze. This is how I know love in a way very few could comprehend. With Christine's voice at my side, I have sung airborne, shook and shimmering through my head, ringing within me and my other half, one body crooning 2 notes. By God, we're our own duet. Listen to how we're bound in unison. Listen to the grace we have here. This is our story I want you to hear. Now there's one last thing I'm gonna leave you with, and that is the concept I wanted to create. There's a couple of crowns of sonnets in the book. That means the last line of one poem becomes the first line of the next one, and so on and so forth, until the last line of the last poem becomes the first line of the first poem, and so it forms a circle. All right. My sonnet people in the house are like, yeah, that's right. But I wasn't able to do that. Couldn't make that happen. But what I was able to do is I was able to go back to this first poem here and take these lines. We've made it 2 songs in one dark skin. We ride the wake of each other's rhythm. We sing straight from this nation's barbed wire heart, and free twin sisters who've followed our voices far, and graft them in as the first or last lines of some of the poems you just read. So when you put all those poems together, it looks a little like that. So you can read all the way from the top, through the middle, down to the bottom, back to, and then down, etc. In a concrete form that replicates the gaze of the crowd upon the McCoy Twins. But in this case, you are the reader who is tracing their story, their life story. okay? And when you get the book, it folds out, so, you know, we can see the whole thing. Just want to say thank you very much. You've been a gracious audience.